What's up guys, it's Bastian here coming at you with another Pokemon theme deck profile, and today we are looking at Trouble, one of the two decks that came out with the Team Rocket set. First thing, when I'm looking at the box, I'm absolutely loving the same color signage they've used for Psychic and Grass. I think it's really cool. I don't think I ever really paid too much attention to this, but this is a lovely touch there. Okay, so Trouble and what was the other one now? Can't remember. Of the Devastation was the other one that came out. So Trouble is supposed to represent, obviously, Jesse and James and Meowth, and Devastation is supposed to represent the boss, I guess. Well, that's certainly what the cover tells us. I actually really liked as a kid that they've introduced not just Team Rocket in general, but they brought in the faces that we all know and love. I think when it comes to comic relief, these two are the absolute best combined with Meowth. So let's look at the Pokemon as we always do here. Let's look at what we start with. I'm going to first show you guys the basics that don't evolve, and then we are going to go into the heavy hitters, supposed happy hitters of the deck. That's the one. So first of all, we start with two copies of Farfetch'd, and I think Farfetch'd is actually a really good underrated Pokemon. Doesn't work too well without the double colorless, but still, if you play theme deck versus theme deck, I find myself more often than not getting to the pot smash. And if you get lucky on that coin flip with the leak slap and you deal 30 damage for 1 energy, you feel like an absolute legend. That already is like a mini game, and if you get that you win that mini game for yourself in the game. Farfetch'd is good because this is a double color deck. We have Grass and Psychic, as you can remember, and that allows us to sync energies regardless of what we have into Farfetch'd and Friends. We got two copies of Weedle. This is a clear representation just how bad the Pokemon collection were for Jesse and James. However, if nothing else, Weedle does have a single attack energy poison sting, and you know what? If you get that head off and you poison your opponent with a Weedle, again, it's a bit like getting the coin flip with leak slap. You feel like you're on top of the world. Besides that, Weedle 40 HP, and we don't have a Kakuna, we don't have a Beedrill, so it is what it is. You're gonna be obviously sometimes in a position where you have to run out Weedle. It's okay early game, it's okay to start the game with. Later on, when your opponent starts to have some of the stage 1, stage 2s out, Weedle's not going to be able to compete at all. We get a copy of Jinx. Jinx is alright again. It has a single energy attack in double slap, and at least we have 70 HP on this Pokemon here. And Meditate is okay, especially when you've already hit your opponent's Pokemon. Meditate is going to scale up 20 plus 10 for each damage on the defending Pokemon. It can be a big one. Double slap, it's a bit disappointing when you have no heads of it, but on average you're probably gonna see at least 10 damage of the double slap. Jinx is particularly good if you have another Pokemon that sets up your opponent's Pokemon, and then you come in with Jinx, Meditate, and just deal 50 or something damage with that. So it can be used to your advantage. No evolution on Jinx, unfortunately. Then we have Meowth. Meowth is in there for the obvious reason that this is supposed to be Jesse and James's deck, if you like. But God, this Meowth is terrible. Coin Hurl, it really would need a double colorless again for this to be at least reasonable. You choose one of your opponent's Pokemon, flip a coin. If it has this attack, does 20 damage. So it gives you a little bit of a reach, a 50-50 chance. I would definitely refrain from having Meowth in the active position unless I'm absolutely desperate and there's nothing better that I can get out there. But it's good for the theme, it's good for flavor. We got 3 copies of Drowsy. I like Drowsy. The long distance hypnosis is a little bit risky. You obviously once per turn flip a coin. If you get heads, you put your opponent's active to sleep. If you get tails, you put your own to sleep. This is actually going to combo well with another Pokemon we have in the deck. I'll show you later. But I don't mind the Nightmare because whilst it is a 2 energy 10 damage attack, it gives you guaranteed a sleep, and that's good. That's good. Drowsy 50 HP, so it meets the average level at least when it comes to basic HP for the WotC era. So yeah, I don't mind Drowsy. Drowsy is definitely good to have in the back pocket. There's some situations where he can be good. And on to the main, supposed main beater of the deck. 4 copies of Ekans and a copy of Dark Arbok. I say supposed because this is obviously the rare, this is the foil that you get. And also, if you haven't noticed yet, this is Arbok's face. This is the body deco that they're obviously born or evolved with. But God Almighty, that's a scary face there. Look at that bad boy. That is super scary. Okay, so Ekans 50 HP, a single energy attack with bite, and then we get Poison Sting, which deals 20 no matter what, no questions asked, and you might even get a poison off it. So I'm very content with the Ekans. I think that's at least average, if not above average, basic for this era. And then Dark Arbok, with all Dark Pokemon, doesn't really gain too much additional HP. It goes from 50 to 60. We will need at least 2 energy to pull off Stare. And Stare is not bad, and nor is Poison Vapor, but similar to Meowth, our Arbok gives us reach more than anything. However, I do like Poison Vapor, I must admit. So, Stare. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. This attack does 10 damage to that Pokemon, and it also shuts down that Pokemon. Pokemon has a Pokemon power. It stops working until the end of your opponent's turn. So that can be useful. Not really going to be significant if you just play theme deck versus theme deck. But if you decided that I'm just gonna build a deck around Dark Arbok, that gives you an inbuilt, definitely can shut down some Pokemon power because this doesn't need a coin flip, and that's pretty cool. Now, Poison Vapor. Defending Pokemon is now poisoned, so that's guaranteed, and 10 damage. Okay, fair enough. For 3 energy, you would expect something like that. And then this attack does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So, yes, whilst it obviously gets better the more benched Pokemon your opponent has, if you do the maths, this can actually deal 60 damage. But the 10 damage and the guaranteed poison is already good. And then, obviously, just to make the energy requirement a bit more efficient, then obviously you deal 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So I think that's a pretty cool attack. It does quite a lot. Unfortunately, it's quite expensive though, but that's what I'm saying by Arbok being the pseudo big guy of this deck. Technically, it could net you 2-3 price cards with that one attack if you find that your opponent's bench just need 20 damage to be KO'd. You're gonna get that with the 10 plus the poison. And then if your opponent has on the bench 2 more Pokemon that just needs that 10 or 3, it can technically, yes, it can close the game, it can win you the game. To get to that point, too many stars need to align though. But I like what Dark Arbok does. Now the actual heavy hitter of the deck, heavy hitter number 1, Haunter. I dread that they've used the base set to Ghastly. I just really don't like this Ghastly. The Fossil Ghastly is just superior. With Ghastly you get 30 HP. At least you get the free retreat, which is definitely important. Any theme deck I'm looking at, I'm analyzing. Dude, is there any Pokemon, any ideally basic, that has a free retreat? Just for those situations where your active gets KO'd, you want to send something up and then decide who you actually want to go up. So we get Sleeping Gas for 1 Psychic. Flip a coin if has a defending Pokemon is now asleep. Pretty bad. Um, it's just not really good. It might not do anything. And then Destiny Bond, again, it's just one of those where you waste the Psychic Energy card because you got to discard one to use this attack. If Ghastly's knocked out, then he also knocks out your opponent's active. So your opponent's gonna play around that clearly, and you're just wasting your precious energies. Haunter, however, really good for one single energy. It's a guaranteed sleep, and that's what I meant with Drowsy. Drowsy and Haunter, they combo pretty well if you get the coin flip right on Drowsy. If your opponent's actually woke up since your Haunter's last attack, Drowsy gives you a second chance to get 50 damage in with that Dream Eater, because you can only use that attack if your opponent's active is asleep. And nevertheless, if you do pull that off, that's fantastic. You are running the risk of putting Haunter asleep, but that's just the risks we gotta take when we play with these old theme decks. There's definitely room for us to be inventive with our gameplay decisions. So Haunter is one of the big attackers, but the actual one looks in the form of the Abracadabra lineup we get in this deck. Let me just get these up a little bit higher. First of all, we got so much functionality of these guys, it's unreal. So Abra gives us free retreat Pokemon 3 and 4. Yes, again, only 30 HP, that's a bit of a shame. But at least we get a single energy attack that definitely deals 10 damage and possibly paralyze. And paralyze is good. It's basically your opponent. Well, it's not quite lose a turn, but when they can't attack, that's always salty. And we got the new Rocket release of Abra. We get a little bit more HP, but we have to pay for retreat, and we get a bit of a selection. We got two attacks on this Abra. First of all, notice the art, which I think is brilliant. I'm absolutely loving that art. I love how they've changed the art style for the Rocket expansion, and it really it fits with what was already there. But it just opened up this new era because they started to show Pokemon in particular settings, in particular scenarios. You look at the Jinx, you look at the Farfetch, the Weedle. That's the Pokemon, that's what it looks. But then look at Abra, it's just sitting under a tree there. It's still cool, but now you look at this version where Abra is actually chilling on top of a little rooftop tower thingy. So this Abra gets Vanish, shuffle Abra into your deck, which can be good for a number of reasons. If you want to promote one of your, fully fleshed Dark Arbok ready on your bench, ready to go, and you don't want to pay the retreat cost, or Abra is particularly damaged and you just want to save him up, then you can Vanish him. I, however, will more often than not use the Psyshock, which is already existent in the base set version. So they kind of gave Abra a little bit more HP. Yes, they gave him a retreat cost, but they gave him the Vanish possibility as well. Let's move on to the meat of the deck, the Kadabras. So first of all, Kadabra, 60 HP. Yes, very heavy retreat cost, but this guy is an absolute beatstick. The recover, you discard one psychic energy attached to Kadabra, and you remove all damage counters from Kadabra. An inbuilt, better than a super potion, really. Because if Kadabra was on 50, then it still removes that 50 damage. But the Super Psy is the one that we're aiming for here. 3 energy, 50 damage, no questions asked. This is the real big puncher of the deck, this Kadabra. But then Dark Kadabra gives us functionality. We got 2 copies of Dark Kadabra. So first of all, I'm liking that 3 out of our 4 Abras will be able to go somewhere. Whereas you look at Ekans, 1 out of the 4 Ekans will be able to go somewhere. So this immediately allows us to get, something better out of these basics. And even you look at the Ghastlies, One of your 2 Ghastlies will be able to go into a Haunter. 3 out of your 4 Abras will be able to go into a Kadabra. So this is the real meat of the deck. As much as I would love to say Dark Arbok is the winner here, it's not. So Matter Exchange allows us to discard a card in order to draw a card once per turn. If you got 2 Kadabras out, you can do that once each per turn, by the way. That's already good. That gives us card selection. That allows you to get rid of the energies that you don't need and see something hopefully that's better. Get rid of your Meowth, for example. And that Mind Shock is a 2 energy 30, which is still better than pretty much anything you got on board here for 2 energies, unless Dream Eater, but that's very conditional. And you don't apply weakness and resistance for this attack, so even if your opponent has psychic resistance, well, not any longer. That's pretty good against colorless, because those are the guys that tend to have psychic resistance, and many of the theme decks run at least a couple of different basic colorless, just to make sure that your energy utilization can go somewhere. So really good. Both Kadabra, both versions of Kadabra are really useful, really cool for this deck. Now, because we have Matter Exchange, because we have Long Distance Hypnosis, because we have the reach with Poison Vapor, they were particularly stingy when it came to the trainer cards of this particular deck, and that is one of the downsides of this deck for sure, that we only see 6 or 7 trainers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trainers. We only get 1 bill. So when it comes to card draw, we're not doing super well. That's what I meant by the Matter Exchange. You have to think of the Matter Exchange as almost essential for you to see more of your deck, because we only get 1 bill. We at least get a chance to find Dark Kadabra with the Boss's Way, and I would recommend to get the Dark Kadabra, unless you have it in your hand. If you have both in your hand, get Dark Arbok naturally, but the Boss's Way can only search those 3. And that's it. That's all we get for any sort of card advantage support. We get 1 copy of Switch, which you probably want to keep for your Kadabra, because it has 3 energies as a retreat cost. Your Gust of Wind can be pretty good, especially if you got a fully ready Dark Arbok. Get your opponent's Pokemon out that can be KO'd for 20, and make sure you spread all across the back. At least we get 2 copies of Potion, so that's always at least useful. I've not come across, not well, I might have, but I can't remember any theme deck that didn't have at least 1 single potion, or later on Moo Moo Milk or something like that. Now we do have, however, a little bit of a help in the form of a full heal energy. Of course, the first sort of utility energies, if you like it, came out in the Rocket expansion, full heal and potion energy. Full heal energy is cool if you, let's say you got Drowsy on the bench, Haunter as your active, you don't get the coin flip right with Drowsy, throw this full heal on Haunter, at least that can then pay for that retreat cost, get him back on the bench, get somebody else out, or try Hypnosis again. So that's it. And then for energies we have 18 Psychic, loads of Psychic, and 10 Grass. And be careful using the Grass on your colorless, because you're gonna want to have your Grass to power up your Dark Arbok. So be careful with how you utilize your Grass. Psychic you have plenty, no problem at all. So ladies and gents, this was the Trouble theme deck from the Team Rocket expansion. I actually remember an old primary school friend of mine picking this up, and I remember looking at the Dark Arbok, and it was just cool, nice trip down memory lane. Thanks for joining me again, guys. I hope you will tune in next time as well. And up until then, Bussy and signing out. Peace.